Hello everyone and welcome back to another modern video here on Modern with Randy. I am Randy. As always guys, if you like what I'm doing, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe, all that fun jazz. Leave a comment about anything you guys have seen now with Modern Horizons 3 Pro Tour over, what you guys think is the best deck. Do you think Nadu is going to get banned? Hit me up with those questions. I'd be happy to answer and have a great discussion with you guys. But Modern Horizons 3 Pro Tour just happened last weekend. I thought I'd kind of go over it, talk about it a little bit, and kind of dig into what this means moving forward, especially getting ready to head into the RCQ season. So, starting out with the Game 1 Modern Metagame breakdown, essentially what people brought to the tournament as a whole, what people were thinking, what they were trying to do, all that fun jazz. So I think probably without anyone's surprise, we have Bant Nadu and Ruby Storm as the top two decks going into the tournament. Pretty much after day one of Modern Horizons 3 being released, everyone knew Ruby Storm was a force to be reckoned with, the deck that can win on turn 2 if given the right circumstances, and consistently win on turn 2. Not too surprised people were going to be playing it as well as being prepared for it. And then I think to no one's surprise, Bant Nadu here with 20% of the field, basically just because it's a great deck. We've seen time and time again it keep doing well. Obviously, you have a whole bunch of testing teams and pros. They're going to be able to figure out how to build the best version, or quote unquote the best version of that deck. So really no surprise to see those two being the top two list. And then we had Jeskai Control, again, not too surprising. That's the deck I'm playing currently myself. I think the deck feels great. Feels like it has a lot of play to it. Feels just overall just a fun deck, and it's kind of great to see that Control is kind of back in the meta as a whole. And then we had Mono Black Necro, not too surprising. Necro Dominance is one hell of a card. Turns out even putting limits on, having hand size and things of that nature, still really good card. And then we had Eldrazi Tron, 4-color Nadu was a little bit. Then we had Boros Energy, Jeskai Wizards, kind of no surprise, Boros Energy was one of the more hyped up decks going into Modern Horizons 3 before people were able to play with the cards. Jeskai Wizards has kept showing up as, a fun little interaction with Tameo, Flaminor, things like that. Snapcaster Mage. But overall, I think this is kind of to be expected of the metagame breakdown. I don't think anyone's surprised that there was a lot of Nadu decks. Basically, 25% of the field was Nadu, realistically. If you're going to count, 4-color Nadu and Bant Nadu together, they're basically the same deck in the sense that they're trying to come well with Nadu. But overall, I think that this is not too surprising, especially when you go into a format like the Pro Tour where it's very hostile, or everyone kind of knows that you're playing against the best players. You have these testing house teams, things like that. It's not too surprising to see almost, be very condensed on what you're going to see in the top couple decks. That being said, though, Pro Tour Modern Horizons 3 definitely was showcasing how great and how good Nadu was. Because we had the breakdown here of modern win rates between day 1 and 2 for just the modern portion of it. And if you look here at like the green highlighted part here, Nadu had a almost 60% win rate overall. That's where it's even facing against the other decks, it's doing all the other things. And then if you take a look here at the win percentage, it had a good win percentage against Storm with being 63%. It had a 50-50 against Jeskai Control. It had a 62 win percent against the Mono Black Necro. It was still beating Eldrazi Tron, despite Eldrazi Tron having a bunch of different answers just to slow it down. Ironically, Bant Nadu was apparently losing to 4-color Nadu. I think that's literally just a flip of a coin, though. I think it's the same thing as Bant Nadu versus Bant Nadu. It was winning against Boros Energy, and the only quote-unquote bad matchup it had here really was Jeskai Wizards. Which, again, these are all small sample sizes. You can't take this, take this with a grain of salt. You can't just assume, all these are, cut and dry and the correct answers or anything. But it is a little crazy, though, when we take a look at, Bant Nadu was the most played deck at a 59% win percentage, and then we go back down to Ruby Storm with a 35% win percentage. That was the second most played deck. So kind of crazy when you take a look at it and see, how much more well prepared maybe people were for Ruby Storm. Maybe people weren't prepared for Bant Nadu. Maybe Bant Nadu is just that good it needs to be banned. I don't have the answer, obviously, but it is kind of crazy to look at and see what kind of the whole breakdown of the decks. Now, obviously, like I said, this is a small sample size, guys. Don't take this to heart. Don't take this as this is the end all be all. Don't start going buying Demir Murktide. I don't think that deck is nearly as good as it is represented here with the 70% win percentage, but just kind of interesting breakdowns of how good the decks did and didn't do. And with that, it is no surprise that we had, Bant Nadu taking down the tournament as a whole. Deck put 4 or 5 into the top 8 between 4 Bant Nadus and a 5-color, or 4-color Nadu list, not 5-color, sorry. 4-color Nadu list, and then also the top 4 was just all the Bant Nadu list. It was kind of crazy. It was an all Nadu list, all Nadu top 4. So it is a little crazy that we're seeing this and how we're seeing Nadu kind of take over. Now, obviously, this has led to a lot of people calling for Nadu to be banned. I am one of those people. I think the card should be banned. I think it does kind of create some miserable play interactions, things like that. I also think that on top of it not creating like the best play patterns as a whole, it's very hard to interact with as a whole with how the deck is built currently. And I'm not sure that we've even found the most optimal build of the deck yet as a whole, but it will be interesting to see what happens with it and how the deck continues to go, and if Wizards is going to just go ahead and ban Nadu and open up the format. But just kind of a quick going over this deck, essentially, for anyone who maybe missed how this deck works or missed how the deck runs or have been living under a hole for the last couple months, I'm not sure. Essentially, you're comboing off with Nadu, the Winged Wisdom, being able to target your creatures with Sudoku, the 1-mana artifact for 0 cook cost, being able to either look at the top card and either put a land into play or draw that card, or sorry, put that card into your hand, so it doesn't even technically draw the card, which is notable. But with that, you're basically trying to get a Springheart and Huku out. So it has a landfall. Whenever you hit a land into play, you make a 1/1 insect. So this lets you potentially go infinite. And then the way this deck wins is essentially making an infinite board with what it can do. You can kind of just keep recycling all your cards, things like that, especially because you're going to be able to draw your entire deck out. You'll be able to pitch cast Endurance a lot. So you'll pitch cast Endurance, you'll let the evoke trigger, you'll stack it so where the evoke trigger happens first, and then you'll target yourself with your graveyard. You'll be able to sacrifice lands with Sylvan Safekeeper, so you can keep cycling through your deck, essentially, and make either a million 1/1s, essentially, or with Bushel Bill Spine Sower, his landfall, you can put a +1/+1 counter on a creature. So even saying if you have if you have 1 or 2 creatures untapped, you can just make them, almost infinitely large and just swing in and kill them on the same turn. It is almost crazy how this deck works as a whole, and how it kind of is just very resilient overall. That being said, I do think that the deck probably needs to be banned or at least nerfed to some degree, and I'm not sure taking out the 1-mana artifact is going to be the quote-unquote answer, especially when we have Outrider and Core. He has a 0 ability that says target creature, you get to prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt to Outrider does to target creature instead. So it's still another way to go off with 0 mana interaction, essentially. So, like I said, I think this deck probably needs to be hit as a whole. I'm in that camp. Whether or not Wizards will do that or not, hard to say. Will the meta just adjust? No one really kind of knows. But I think the bigger, or less talked about here of the top 8 was the fact that we had 2 different Necro decks in the top 8, despite having, not the best win percentage against Nadu that we saw earlier. These decks still made it into the top 8. I think these might be probably the biggest winners if we see Nadu banned. The decks are very strong, and there's 2 different versions that made it into the top 8. So I thought I'd go over the 2 different versions of that. But this one was Noah's deck that he made into the top 8 with it. Basically, kind of makes sense in what you're trying to do here. You're trying to play Necro Dominance as your card draw. Card draw ability. Basically, you're going to be able to get through a bunch of your deck. We're playing, a bunch of removal with Fatal Plus, March of the Restless Sorrow to help gain our life back, Soul Spike to help gain our life back, as well as, end of turn draw 10 cards, see Soul Spike, and 2 black cards. We can get rid of those 3 and gain our value of getting 4 damage to go creature, 4 damage to their face. We get to gain 4 life back, as well as now we're not discarding 3 extra, those 3 cards where we got value out of those instead. Same thing here with, we see Soren has kind of made his way into these decks because with Soren and Soul Spike, you can just automatically flip Soren very easily. Shieldred, because you are drawing the cards, helps negate the life loss. Bowmaster, because it's a great black card. Grief, same reason. We see with Malakar Rebirth and Not Dead at All to kind of get that scam effect still going. So overall, not too surprising seeing how this deck is built. That being said, I don't think this is the best version of this list by far. I think that Seth Mansfield was a lot better. I think it was a lot more clean, and I really like it. And so obviously, I have Seth's deck as well. I think this one was truly going in and leaning on the powerhouse that is Necrodominance, along with the One Ring. It had answers for the Nadu decks with the Flare Malice. I also really like that Seth focused more heavily on playing the MDFCs, the flip cards for the lands. He's running 11 basics basically, or not basics, sorry, but 11 lands. He's running 6 basics. He's running 11 lands, and then still just has all the flip cards if he needs to, because he's basically banking on the fact that he's going to get the 3 mana, he's going to slam Necrodominant, and he's going to continuously have a flow of cards with that. And then if for every reason Necrodominant isn't enough, or you can't find your Necrodominant, he's also running for the One Ring. This is a man that wants to draw a bunch of cards. He wants to see a bunch of his deck. And there was quite a few times where we watched him where he soul spiked someone out of the game just through a little bit of chip damage, and then just dealing 4 to him at a time with soul spike. It is almost crazy how good that card has become. That being said, I do think that if we hit Nadu, this deck probably needs some kind of nerf as well, because I think this just becomes tier 1, or not tier 1, but it's already tier 1. Probably the best deck in the format, if not tied for the best deck in the format, with either Jeskai Energy or something along that line. I do think that this is where you want to be if Nadu gets banned tomorrow, essentially, where this is just probably the best deck you can be playing. Necrodominance is great. All of your black cards are great. Just kind of a great deck altogether. It's really hard to pick apart and go, oh, this deck is bad. This deck seems to be the real deal. Necrodominance seems to be the real deal. I think the biggest question with these decks is whether or not Soren is correct or not in these builds. I'm not a big fan of the card myself. Obviously, it doesn't mean anything. I wasn't in the Pro Tour. I wasn't in the top 8. So, obviously, Noah's doing something right playing Soren Markov. So, clearly, he had a better testing team. He had a better thing. He was in the Pro Tour. He made it to the top 8. It's hard to sit here and go, I think Soren's bad, and I'm obviously correct, But that being said, I think this is probably the not talked about factor of the Pro Tour is that Necrodominance is a powerhouse and is going to be massively huge if and when Nadu gets banned out of Modern. Overall, though, I think that the Pro Tour was great. I think it showcased a lot of interesting cards. I think it showcased a lot of interesting builds as a whole. And I'm kind of curious to see where we're going to and what we're going to see here going up to the RCQ season. That being said, I think Nadu probably needs to be banned. I think it might be a little bit too powerful for the format. But I'm curious to see what you guys think. Let me know. Leave your comments below if you think Nadu's okay. The meta will adjust if it needs to be banned. What you think about Necrodominance. Will it take over the format if Nadu is taken out? Let me know. Leave your comments below. And as always, guys, if you like what you're seeing, you like what I'm doing, go ahead and leave a like. Subscribe to the channel to keep up with all the things that are coming out. And I'll see you guys next time.